So I promise you this is not our new soundtrack here on Land Speculation on YouTube, but there is music on the streets of Washington, D.C. tonight. Welcome guys to Land Speculation on YouTube here. We've been off for a few days. We're back tonight and we are live outside on the streets of D.C. once again. And well, I want to do a few things tonight. Obviously, most of you are aware that last week we posted some original footage of some shenanigans. I shouldn't say shenanigans, that implies there's something weird about them. Anyway, some unusual things going on at the FBI. Steam blowing out the roof and explosion sounds. And we got a lot of footage, or a lot of traction on that footage. So I wanted to offer a little bit of follow-up on all that. Now that we've had several days to digest that, I got some feedback on some of our follow-up videos from last week that because we were engaging in, sort of our live interactive conversation format, that it was taking us a long time to get into some of the information that people wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and do some of that stuff right out of the gate, just to kind of get everybody kind of up to speed on everything that I want to sort of say out of the gate here. And then we'll get into all of your comments, because I know we got a lot of people who are going to join us here in the live chat, and really appreciate people joining us to chat about things here tonight. If you wouldn't mind out of the gate, I do appreciate the likes and the subscribes on the video. Those likes help us out with YouTube. The subscribes help you guys know when we're on. Check our description for links to our Discord and our Duck Fund. The Discord, of course, is our 24/7 chat platform, and the Duck Fund is our PayPal link if people want to help support the stream. I certainly do appreciate those contributions to our channel, as always. But those likes certainly do out of the gate help us out. And, that's, I don't know, it makes me feel good when people like me, I think most people are like that. But it also does help us out with the YouTube algorithm, so I do appreciate that. So, anyway, guys, we are live. As you can see, we are at the U.S. Navy Memorial here out of the gate. And I thought we'd do a couple of interesting things tonight. But I'll get into that here momentarily. So, last week we posted this video of these, we just kind of happened to stumble into it, but these rooftop, kind of loud explosion noises going off at the FBI headquarters. And since then, many hundreds of thousands of people have watched our footage of that, trying to figure out what the hell was going on there. With the general kind of consensus explanation being that there was a steam valve malfunction going on at the FBI that persisted for around 8 hours in the middle of the night last week. And, that is by far most likely what was going on there at the FBI. That does not mean that in the interim days since, I haven't heard basically every explanation under the sun that was kind of an alternative hypothesis or theory about what may have been going on there. Some explanations that were plausible, some that were kind of very crazy, and everything in between. There were theories that the FBI was executing people or aliens up on the roof. Most likely they were not doing that. There were hypotheses the FBI was destroying evidence up on their rooftop in some fashion. Most likely they were not doing that. I don't know what kind of evidence destruction machine they may have or not have, but I have a hard time imagining quite what that would be. There were theories that they were blowing up emergency food supplies or underground tunnels, or there's all kinds of things that people were saying out there on the internet. And if people have ideas about whatever they think is going on in Washington that may be unusual, I'm open to hearing ideas. Somebody's saying there's an underground war in DC going on. So is all that stuff going on? I have no idea. But Creep says alien dinosaurs from another dimension. It could be alien dinosaurs from another dimension. But it all kind of happens at the same time that there's some pretty sinister news about the FBI out there. in particular how the FBI may have fabricated evidence in the past or, done various cover-ups on some of these things in the last few years. So, people being skeptical about the, various dimensions of government, I don't think is, like, that skepticism is not crazy. Probably what we were observing was some kind of steam valve issue. But I know people have different thoughts on that, and I'm certainly open to hearing them. And we offered, when we were last out last Thursday night, a number of thoughts in response to some of this, which, largely centered around the idea that if this was, in fact, a steam valve situation, that represented sort of a level of, kind of irresponsibility, perhaps, for the FBI to not figure out how to deal with that for 8 hours and not issue any kind of press release or public information for as long as they did, which really was never. They never really issued anything until a couple of news stations reached out a couple of days later. And we talked about a little bit of the history of the FBI's efforts to get a new headquarters building built for themselves. Some of the things that, may or may not have been said before Congress that may or may not have been true about the state of repair of that particular building here in Washington in order to justify funding to either repair it or build a new building. And all that is still on the table. And if you missed our stream last Friday, I know people were, or last Thursday, I guess there were a few people that were concerned that stream was, that some of the information was kind of buried deep within the stream. So anyway, I want to be, respectful of people who are watching these streams, after the fact, looking for sort of pithy summaries of kind of the main points. But obviously these are conversation streams here on Land Speculation on YouTube. We certainly do welcome people to join in the conversation with us on a regular basis. So if you're not subscribed to our channel, once again, get subscribed to our channel. If you haven't dropped a like on our video, I appreciate that. Check the description for links to our Discord and our Duck Fund. I do always appreciate that as well. Let's see. Brace says you can make your own conclusions, but leave it be for what benefits y'all. If it has nothing to do with the undergo. Let's see. Michelle says the deep underground military base system is to be 10 kilometers underground, so you wouldn't see the sidewalks crumbling. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of, again, guys, lots and lots of ideas, and I'll get into some of those here over the course of the night. I did want to take you guys back real quick tonight. So let me give you a little bit of kind of thoughts on what I want to do tonight. As we are back on the streets of DC on a pretty chilly night, actually. This is colder than it was last week when we were out. We're actually right here at the corner with the FBI headquarters. It's actually right here. It's an easy thing for us to kind of have proximity to. Here's the National Archives. Here is the Department of Justice, and then here is the FBI headquarters. So one of the things I think we do know to be the case is, and actually I think it's actually quite interesting, is that whatever steam the FBI was belching last week, chances are in the middle of the night with a largely empty facility was not its own steam. And I think that's something people were a little weirded out by. It was like, why, if the building is empty and it's 2 or 3 in the morning, are these loud explosions going off, even if there's a malfunction? And one of the things I think a lot of people may not know about DC is that almost all of these federal buildings have their utility networks connected underground. People always talk about this idea that DC has this really complicated network of underground tunnels. And sometimes that can be overblown. There's a lot of mythology that I think emanates out of the fact that the Capitol building has 2 short subway systems that are accessible only to badged professionals that connect between the Capitol building and the congressional office buildings around them. And I think sometimes kind of people let their minds run wild with what that means in terms of underground tunnel systems in DC. But one of the things we do know is that over time, DC has basically built a giant set of underground utility tunnels. and that basically the source of the steam and other, well, basically steam, but basically the source of heating and chilled water that makes its way to the FBI headquarters right here up on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. actually doesn't come from within its own building. I mean, normally you'd have, for these kinds of gigantic buildings, you'd have a giant boiler system under each building. That's not how D.C. has it. In fact, all these buildings network together through a long series of underground tunnels. And those tunnels, basically, I guess if you're a utility professional, will allow you to connect pretty expansively between buildings across the city. Now, I can't tell you with any kind of definitive expertise, what may be going on in terms of doubling of tunnels like that for, transport or, kind of emergency transportation for high-level elected officials or anything like that. There's a lot of, I think, rumor about kind of the ways in which, different buildings are connected to each other and what kinds of security that may build in for, things like the president. If the president had to evacuate the White House, where could the president go via underground networks? I don't know the answers to those things definitively. But I thought one of the things that would be interesting for us to do tonight is just to take a little bit of a walk and to track some of the locations of what we know about where the sources of steam to the FBI headquarters actually come from. And it'll take us on a little walk, so we can talk as we walk. But I hope this will be interesting to people, because I want to kind of show you guys basically the path of sort of where things go underground in DC. The tunnel networks that aren't necessarily publicly accessible, and sort of how things link up. We're not going to go underground, but we can sort of point out some things here above ground. So hopefully that'll be interesting to people. If he says there are tunnels, lots of them. There's a tunnel from the White House Lincoln Memorial. Gift shop, says Michael. I don't know about that. Okay, anyway. It's sort of exciting, says David. Yeah. Well, so anyway, guys, we're here at the FBI headquarters. We just did a little introduction and background to sort of why we're even talking about the FBI headquarters. If you missed all of our streams last week, go back and watch those. I don't have any earth-shattering findings for people, that massively changed the game from what we knew last week. But I do have a lot of very interesting DC context that, for those of you that are trying to put the pieces together on your understanding of Washington, D.C., or things you may think, may have happened, hopefully this will be interesting for you. Linda says, I watched the underground bunkers for the government officials. Wow, they had everything. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that. There've been a number of bunkers the government has built over time, probably the most famous of which is the underground bunker that existed up until it was unearthed about 1992 or 1994, somewhere in there, underneath the Greenbrier, which is a fancy resort hotel in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. The government back during the Cold War had built a gigantic underground bunker for the Congress and the Senate underneath this resort in rural West Virginia. And you can actually go tour that now. People ultimately discovered this existed because they saw random big antennas popping out of the ground in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the woods. And that sort of led to a domino effect that outed the bunker, which was by that time probably a little bit obsolete anyway, and also hard to get the, if anything happened, to get the Congress 4 hours out of Washington, D.C. to that kind of location was pretty impractical. But it's probably not the only bunker the government has. Okay, anyway, this is the FBI headquarters. This is, of course, where we were last week when there were the explosions going off. So I'm just going to start here because, we want to sort of track from here where this connects to in terms of underground relationships. So as you can tell, there are no explosions going off tonight. It has been all quiet at the FBI basically since last Tuesday, which is when we were out and heard some of those things going off here in downtown DC. As we talked about last week, the FBI headquarters, dating back to 1975, is a massive fortress-like structure, brutalist architecture, very heavy concrete, close to 3 million square feet of interior space here in the heart of downtown DC, located on Pennsylvania Avenue, very heavily secured building. And there's, again, a lot of controversy around potentially rebuilding this structure. So this is the FBI, and we'll just take a little walk along this southern edge of the FBI. I'll quiet on the eastern front tonight. Dave was asking, where did the senators go? The discourse about where the senators went during the Capitol insurrection. I don't know the answer to that. I know there was that video that was released of the senators all sort of strategizing. Frankly, I don't. Are we sure they left the campus? I mean, I think they were basically still on the Capitol campus. Okay. Anyway, I think Lance should use Disco Duck for his intro, says JL. Explosions are now coming out in the courtroom of how corrupt the FBI is, says Evie. So, metaphorical explosions about corruption at the FBI. There's stuff going on big time. There's a lot of chatter about what the media sort of is and isn't covering of some of the findings dating back to the 2016 investigations of Donald Trump and the somewhat fabricated intelligence that was used to justify them. So I can't speak about fabricated explosions. I mean, we can talk about it, but I can't speak necessarily to fabricated or to metaphorical explosions here, or to corruption of that kind. But I can certainly see why people would have their suspicions about, really anything that goes on in DC. But what I wanted to again talk a little bit tonight is sort of just the physical stuff. So, as you can tell, we are walking along Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. And if you're tracking along on the map, we are at the southwest corner of the FBI headquarters in Washington on Pennsylvania Avenue. What is this? I don't know what this is. Garland arrests grandmas for loving the victims of abortion. I don't know, guys. What is this in reference to? Because I guess somebody is sidewalk chalked here to the sidewalk. Okay, so we're crossing Pennsylvania Avenue. As you can see, the Capitol Dome is down this direction. And there's more sidewalk chalk here. Let's see. DOJ is targeting pro-lifers to serve political interests. So we've had some people, I guess, out here sidewalk chalking on behalf of, I guess, the sense that pro-life forces are being persecuted by the Department of Justice, which again is right here. This is the Department of Justice building. The FBI headquarters is right here. Department of Justice headquarters is right here, and the FBI headquarters is right here. So again, this is the FBI headquarters. Last week when we heard all those noises coming out of the top of the FBI headquarters, they were on this corner of the building. And what's weird about that a little bit is that this corner of the building, from the aerial view of the FBI headquarters, does not appear to actually have any utility piping or anything like that. I can't say definitively that it doesn't, but most of the HVAC system for the FBI headquarters is located on that cantilevered part of the building over there. And it was very definitive that the explosions on the top of the building were happening on this corner over here, which basically is a flat-topped access tower onto the roof, which basically for these edges of the building is just a flat rooftop that has, you can access, it's like a deck up there, and it's completely flat. So, there was no sort of visible utility outlet up there. So, anyway, make of that what you will. But again, the main HVAC of the building is over there. So again, the FBI's STEAM system, assuming that's what this was, is basically fed by a series of underground tunnels. Underground tunnels basically feed 57 different buildings in this part of Washington, big federal buildings. And we're going to take a little walk to just kind of track where they go. So one more little shot here of the FBI headquarters. Again, this is it. You can see a few lights on and off here after midnight here tonight. Again, it's a colder night in DC. It's a little windy, so we'll try to keep out of the wind as best we can. If it is an issue with the microphone, I apologize about that. We are very close to getting some new phone technology, which will have hopefully some better stabilization and wind blocking stuff. Quiet says they were spraying the T virus from the top of the building to start the zombie apocalypse. Maybe. Should gather like a compendium of all the different theories and make some Vegas betting odds as to what was really going on. So anyway, there's the FBI headquarters. You can see a couple of FBI police cars out front of the building, as there usually are. I guess one there has its lights on. I'm not sure if it's occupied or not. But a few lights on. The FBI headquarters, again, is kind of sitting here north of Pennsylvania Avenue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk basically south past Pennsylvania Avenue between the Department of Justice building and the IRS building. And the reason I'm taking this path is because we know those buildings are also fed by the same underground steam tunnel network. We talked last week about the sort of oddity. The Department of Justice and the FBI are literally across the street from each other. Obviously, those two agencies are supposed to be independent from one another. But obviously often they do act in concert with each other. And of course, the FBI, people don't like the FBI because the FBI takes your money. And of course, the National Archives is the next building down this direction past the Department of Justice. So all in tight proximity here, you have the FBI, Department of Justice, the National Archives, and the, FBI, National Archives, Department of Justice, and IRS headquarters. So those things are all in proximity. We know they're all connected via underground tunnels. And we are on a lookout, and I don't see any vents here that would give you sort of an obvious clue that you're dealing with underground steam tunnels between these. And part of the reason that I don't think you see them is because actually a lot of the tunnels between these buildings literally connect under the buildings. One of the other oddities about these buildings in the heart of Washington, D.C., is that they were actually built physically on top of what used to be an underground creek. Well, it used to be not an underground creek, it used to be an above ground creek that was basically exposed to the air, and originally was designed to help take wastewater out of the city of DC and dump it back into the Potomac River in an era of much more rudimentary plumbing. So basically where we are, which is just between Pennsylvania Avenue and Constitution Avenue, both of which are east-west running streets. There used to be an east-west running creek called the Tiber Creek that was basically an open creek that fed the Potomac River. You could get basically all the way from more or less in front of the Capitol down to the Potomac River by way of that creek. And it connected into a canal system. And there's actually a house that remains from that canal system on one of the corners down here by the National Mall. That creek, which existed for many, many, many years, obviously, as you can imagine, in a swamp like Washington, basically became an open, rotting sewer. It became a real bad thing and created a lot of malaria in DC. DC was a kind of a major cesspool of disease back when that creek existed, and the creek certainly had a little bit to do with that. It basically had, the open sewage of a lot of the city, and as the city grew after the Civil War, that became pretty disgusting, and it became a huge disease hazard because we're in low territory down here in the Potomac River swamp, and there are gnats everywhere, and it was just nasty. So what happened was, sometime in the late 1800s, they basically committed to covering up that creek. And the creek basically was just buried. They built what was then one of the longest tunnels in the United States, basically by building a little bridge over that creek and kind of flattening the top of it. So somewhere under where we're standing right now, basically running east-west underneath the FBI and the Department of Justice buildings here, is the original version of that creek. It sits to the north side of Constitution Avenue. We know it's here because when they were building the Ronald Reagan building headquarters, and I'll show you guys those in just a few minutes, back in around 1990, they rerouted some of the water flows of that underground creek, and it basically really messed things up. And the FBI building, which is literally right behind us here, literally started sinking into the ground. Basically because the FBI building was built on top of that creek, when the water flows from that creek weren't moving through that space anymore, it collapsed the ground underneath the building, and the FBI headquarters here started gradually sinking. And they had to do a lot of restorative work as part of that construction project they didn't intend to do back in the early 1990s. So anyway, that's just sort of one interesting side point here, which is that where we are, there basically used to be an underground creek. And that creek, we don't know what happens in that sort of underground creek tunnel now, whether or not that itself is some kind of tunnel or not, that is usable in any way. We don't know, I mean, really definitively where the venting is for the steam tunnels that run under this part of town. But you can hear over here, the loud venting noise over on the north side of Constitution Avenue here. Actually, I just crossed. I'm going to go ahead and cross back. But you can hear sort of the loud venting here. And part of what I want to do tonight is track some of where these vents are so that we can kind of figure out where some of these steam tunnels that connect back in the FBI are actually connecting between. So we're now about a block south of the FBI, and again, you can see here is basically a giant vent. That's venting something underground, which very well could be where the steam tunnels are running here on the north side of Constitution Avenue. You can see the Washington Monument right here. Impeach Garland. Here's people not real happy with the Department of Justice. Will you arrest us for this too? Impeach Garland, Gestapo. Those pro-life rescuers are innocent. So there's a lot of sidewalk chalking right here. Basically people upset with efforts to, I guess, persecute pro-life people by the Department of Justice. Again, we're right outside the Department of Justice headquarters right here. Okay, guys. Anyway, welcome to Land Speculation here on YouTube once again. I am reading through some of your comments, and I want to get into some of your comments here as soon as we get across the street here. But once again, we are here. We started at the FBI headquarters talking a little bit about the events of last week, and we're going to spend a little bit of time tonight tracking some of the tunnels that carry steam to that FBI headquarters and see where exactly they go. So, hopefully this is interesting, a little interesting journey tonight. A lot of underground tunnels connect things here in DC, but if in fact there was a steam valve under the FBI, it probably wasn't coming from the FBI last week. It was probably coming from elsewhere in DC. We're going to figure out where exactly it was coming from. Okay, please do drop a like and a subscribe on the stream, by the way. If you have not liked our stream tonight, I do appreciate that. Those likes help us out with YouTube. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please get subscribed to our channel. Check our description for links to our Discord and our Duck Fund. The Discord, of course, is our 24/7 chat platform, and the Duck Fund, of course, is our PayPal link. Donna, I have no comments. They keep disappearing. Well, that's a shame, Donna. So as we walk along, you can probably hear it a little bit off in the distance, and I hope the wind isn't blocking it too much, but we just passed a vent that was, blowing air out from underground. We're gonna probably pass by another vent over here, and I can kind of hear it. And basically what that's telling us is that there's a linear corridor underground that is, being vented here at the corners near these buildings. And you can see another one of these here. These are venting the underground steam tunnels that run east-west here along Constitution Avenue. And again, those steam tunnels basically are part of a network that comes down south a block from the FBI headquarters, then goes east here for a few blocks. We're not quite sure where it crosses south, but it starts to cross into and over the National Mall. And that's where we're going to head now, because that basically is... Well, we know they have to get across the National Mall going south. And you actually hear more of these steam vents underground. And each one we walk by seems to have, which a lot of them have a homeless person or homeless people sleeping on top of them, because they're venting basically hot air out of them into the city. And, that makes sense. They're carrying basically the heating mechanism into most of these large federal buildings. So they are warm, and it is a cold night here in DC. So, if you don't have a place to sleep, unfortunately, it is, it's a source of warmth on a cool night. So you can basically track where these things are going here as they run south over the National Mall. Okay, is it safe in this area, says Lance Miller? I guess we'll find out, Lance. So we're approaching the National Mall here. Good place to sleep. Yeah, good place to sleep. Are the steam vents warm? They are warm, quiet. They're not like hot, but they are warm. AMC, my hypothesis was a steam valve failure. If it got quiet, it would have blown something up. Yeah, I'm not sure that that's the case, because the steam system that runs underground, that was basically venting through that broken valve at the FBI headquarters, connects back into a massive underground network of tunnels. So there's not a guarantee that just because you plug that valve that the whole system explodes. There are many other outlets for that steam system, including some of these vents all across the city. So, it was probably had more to do with the malfunctioning of the valve than it did with that valve being like an essential outlet for a budding explosion. Okay, Will Buddick, I'm reading now, there's tunnels under Capitol Hill. It's 1950s, long time to the present. So, Will, you're correct. There are tunnels under Capitol Hill. Capitol Hill is obviously well down the National Mall this direction. When we have toured Capitol Hill, and we've done that, in fact, we did that last week. We walked around Capitol Hill, and I pointed out on that sort of some of the locations where there are tunnels that basically connect between the Capitol building, which you see right ahead of us, and some of the Congressional and Senate office buildings that are on either sides of it. Those tunnels are well known about because basically anybody who's badged into Capitol Hill is able to take those tunnels to connect between those buildings underground. There's actually little subway systems that run between the Senate office buildings in the Capitol and the House office buildings in the Capitol, so that members can get easily between their offices and the place they need to go to vote. There are also tunnels connecting between the Capitol building and the Library of Congress. Now, the Capitol building is super well interconnected with tunnels, but the thing about the Capitol is the people who work on the Capitol, the legislative branch, is incredibly insular. Capitol Hill exists in its own world. The Capitol tunnels are their own enclosed ecosystem that connect between all their own things. It's completely independent from the tunnel network that connects between basically everything else in Washington, D.C. So when we talk about there being utility tunnels in the rest of Washington, D.C., they don't connect into the Capitol building. In fact, the Capitol building has its own power plant. They have their own steam generation system that is fed into their own buildings via underground tunnels. The rest of D.C. is completely separate from that. Do tour guides take tourists down the tunnels, says Big Dog? At the Capitol building? I don't think like just a tour of the Capitol will take you down those tunnels. But I'm sure there are people you could, it's certainly not unheard of that if you were to get a tour through your representative or something like that, that they couldn't take you in those tunnels. You might even consider calling your congressperson's office if you really want to experience that, and see if there's a way to, I don't know. I don't know what the right way to broach that is, but there's a huge ecosystem of people that work at the Capitol. So, when you're down in those tunnels, there's a lot of people down there. And they aren't just like Congress people. They're not secret. There's a lot of just sort of interns that work at the Library of Congress and, lots of just volunteer staffers and people like that ride those little underground subways at the Capitol, even though they aren't open to the general public. So we're now, as you can tell, we just crossed the National Mall heading south. We basically are a block. So if you're tracking on a map, we're basically a block to the west of the FBI headquarters and several blocks south now across the National Mall. So again, we know that as we were walking there along Constitution Avenue, there's a big east-west set of connections between some of the underground steam tunnels that allow the FBI headquarters to be connected into a kind of larger system that connects between federal buildings. There's also tunnels that run sort of north-south underneath the National Mall. So somewhere underneath, basically where we are looking, there are also tunnels that connect that same steam network here south across the National Mall. And like I said, it's a big network and it feeds off into several little different directions. But basically we're sort of going backwards. If we were steam, we're kind of going backwards on the journey from the FBI headquarters where it would have been belched out last week to its origin point. So we're going to keep walking south in order to try and find that origin point as best we can here. Let's see. They are short on resources. FBI budget only $10,275 million, says John. DC is not USA, all privately owned, says Tess. Avery, does anyone have video? Video of what? More vents, guys. Good signs here. More vents. If you grab some from the vent, you'd be picking up steam. Yeah, we would. Now, there are many underground utility systems in DC. The steam network is not the only set of underground tunnels in DC. There's also the underground sewer system. There are aqueducts that feed fresh water to DC. And there's the underground DC metro system, which is the train system, which is a different set of tunnels. which is built, generally substantially later. You see more underground vents here, guys. We're on the right track, tracking these underground vents. And of course, there are pedestrian tunnels, like known pedestrian tunnels that connect between different buildings. So again, we're still walking south. We've crossed south of National Mall. And we are tracking to find the source of, assuming this was steam last week at the FBI headquarters, where that steam came from. More vents. We're tracking the vents, guys. Known tunnels is an understatement. These have many thousands of people every day, says Avery. Well, it depends which tunnels you're talking about, Avery. You're talking about the Capitol tunnels. Yeah, absolutely. Those are used by a ton of people. You're talking about the tunnels like underneath, for instance, the Ronald Reagan building. Those are used by a lot of people, and those would be classified as known tunnels. But the underground utility tunnels, not as much. So this basically, guys, is where we are heading. And let's see what we got here. More vents, more vents. Light a match near a vent, then run like hell. It's just steam, big dog. I think it's going to put the match out. So lots and lots and lots of vents here, as you guys can tell. And we are now in a part of DC known as, well, this part of DC is near L'Enfant Plaza. This is south of the National Mall. This is one of generally the most dead parts of Washington, D.C. It is, as you can tell, it's a lot of big federal buildings and not a lot else down here. We basically are now adjacent to, now let's see if I cross here, if we can actually get a glimpse of this. We are now lots and lots of vents now. But we are now basically adjacent to where there are substantial railroads that cut through the city of Washington, basically take people out of the city of Washington. And you can see these tracks right here. These are like heavy rail lines. And if you wanted to go back out into Virginia, you have a lot of rail lines that connect up into Union Station and then back out to Virginia. And they basically kind of cut through the middle of this part of DC, again known as L'Enfant Plaza. And they basically go underground here down this corridor and then cross the river. And it just so happens that these rail lines that take people out of the city connect immediately adjacent to the more or less terminus of where the steam going to the FBI comes from, which is the building that is catty-corner to us right here that we're looking at now, which is the major federal utility plant run by the General Services Administration, which is the it's the chief landlord that basically operates all the major federal buildings in DC, including the FBI headquarters. Basically what happened is, as part of the Great Depression, the federal government, in a bid to employ people, and actually fairly smart, committed to building a massive district energy network that would allow them to position all of the boilers and chillers that would generate the energy and the steam that would feed all the federal buildings across downtown Washington from a single place, rather than having to have a giant boiler network under all of the other buildings. So this building right here that we have just landed on is that giant federal utilities plant, and you can hear it. This building is basically chock full of the kinds of utility generation boilers that then feed steam back across town to all these other buildings. A lot of people don't even know this is here. You can hear how loud this is. And it's got to be loud because, again, it's producing all of the energy, all the heat that gets distributed through this tunnel network to dozens and dozens and dozens of massive federal buildings. So where did the steam that was being belched out of the FBI headquarters come from last week? Well, it was being let out of valves in the FBI headquarters, but it was being transported across town via underground tunnels that connect back into this building. And you can even see you can see in the window there. And look at these giant pipes here. Now, what's crazy about this is that while those underground tunnels carry the steam from this building back across town to distribute to all those other buildings, they're also basically accessible tunnels. Like, there is an ability, if you were a person trying to, in an emergency basis, evacuate the FBI headquarters, you basically could go from that FBI headquarters through that network of tunnels and end up all the way here at the central heating plant here at 325 13th Street Southwest. You're blocks and blocks and blocks away from the FBI headquarters, and you are basically immediately adjacent to railroad tracks that could ferry you out of town in case of an emergency. So a lot of people have wondered, why did they build this giant network? Well, it's not just that they wanted to create a really efficient underground utility network. They did, for sure. It's much more efficient to do it this way. It actually is. It does save them a lot of money, and it's also a little bit greener to do it this way. To have a giant chiller plant or giant boiler plant down here. But it also basically allows for all of these buildings, all the big federal buildings, to be connected via an underground system of tunnels that take people, in the case of emergency, way far away from where those buildings are. Now, did those ever get used? I have no idea. Did they ever get used in that way? I have no idea. But, imagine if there was like a risk of a major 9/11 style or, nuclear attack or something like that. I'm sure the folks that are responsible for protecting major high-level elected officials know that this network of underground connections exists in the case of emergency. And it is, I think, perhaps more than a little bit coincidental that a lot of these buildings were actually connected, not just in the 1930s, but a lot of additional connections between some of these facilities were built in the 1940s, shortly after Pearl Harbor. And I'm going to take you on next one of the other little side legs that was built from the utility plant. So one of the major sources of this utility plant obviously feeds up to places like the FBI headquarters, the Department of Justice, etc., back in downtown DC where we just were. But in the 1940s, there was actually an additional link built between this utility plant and the buildings immediately adjacent here, which is the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, which is basically where the money supply comes from, basically. They basically connected underground between these two buildings, as this utility plant now feeds this building as well, which is, again, gigantic, and then back into a set of north-south tunnels that will take us back across the National Mall, and I'll show where those lead here in a few minutes. But anyway, this is the Bureau of Engraving and Printing that we're now walking by as we try to show you guys. There was a little train station there. So we're trying to show you guys basically how these different sets of utility tunnels in DC connect. Again, having heard last week all of this steam belching out of the FBI headquarters, despite the building being completely empty. It was steam that was coming from way across town here down on the south side of DC, where there's very little going on, frankly. But that was the giant utility plant. Do I happen to know about any tunnels built in the 19th century or before Esquiet Castle? Well, I mean, there are a few. They're mostly small. I mean, one of the tunnels we know that was built, one of the oldest tunnels we know, was the capping over the Tiber Creek, which we talked about just north of Constitution Avenue several minutes ago on the north side of the mall. These tunnels were all built as part of a Great Depression era project. And that's when this giant utility network was built. Things that were built in the 1800s are a little bit murkier, to be sure. So anyway, you can see the Washington Monument poking up over here. And again, the streets in this part of town are pretty darn vacant for the most part. Anyway, we're back here at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Tess says, I'm loving this nighttime guided tour. Well, thanks, Tess. Really appreciate you guys joining us here on Land Speculation on YouTube as we show you guys some of these connections here in DC. So we're going to basically follow where. Let me see. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure we are going in the right places here. I'm going to cross here because I want to stay en route with where these underground utility vents are located. You can see a vent over there. And again, you know, we can know we're on track by how well we're able to track some of these underground vents. All right. Michael would love to see those tunnels to and from the Capitol building. Well, you know, Michael, we can do that. It's probably going to be a separate stream to do that, although maybe if we get over there. We'll see. We'll see how long we can go tonight. Obviously, you know, we're not actually going underground to get, I mean, these tunnels that we're showing you right now that we're tracking from above ground are not public tunnels. These are utility tunnels. The Capitol building tunnels aren't public either, but they are, you know, pedestrian accessible for those that have, you know, badging to get into the Capitol. But we can show you more or less where they are from above ground. So we're headed back north. If anybody's sort of tracking, where are we? We're walking right by the National Holocaust Museum. So we just went by, we were there at the central plant there in Southwest DC. We walked by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, and now we're headed north by the Holocaust Museum here along 14th Street. Basically tracking another leg of this venting system, basically where the steam pipes travel across DC, feeding steam into the various federal buildings across the city. Interesting building there. Agriculture. So I'm going to cross back here over Independence Avenue, back toward the National Mall. I think actually we're going to have to cut over, I believe, one more block. Yeah, we're going to cut over one more block. This is cool. Jose, is something going on again? It's pretty quiet tonight, Jose. But we're taking a little interesting tour tonight. We're trying to check out where and how some of these underground steam corridors connect back into that steam plant. That is basically the source of almost all the energy that feeds something like 32 million federal real estate in the downtown of Washington. It's a ton of just sort of building square footage. Like that, from that building alone that generates steam, you're basically feeding an entire downtown's worth of buildings. So that is like a really, really, really big plant. Again, the Capitol has its own power plant, which if we go back to the Capitol, we can actually find that. I don't think we've ever actually gone over to the Capitol power plant as an interesting destination in DC. DC seems to have a dark vibe, says S23. Do you mean like physically dark? Or do you mean like existentially dark, that DC is weird and corrupt and things like that? Because I think a lot of people do believe that. Now, if you're asking why is DC physically dark, well, part of that's because it's like the middle of the night, and we're in the middle of the office core of DC. Oh, jeez. Are you guys seeing that? We got a... Is that a rat? We got a... I believe that was a rat, guys. Anyway. We're always trying interesting stuff like that. No DC protesters? Not at this time of night. Of course, we did run into some sidewalk chalking there of people who were protesting the fact that the Department of Justice, in their eyes, is persecuting pro-life people. And there are people who are very not happy with Merrick Garland. Let's see, no rats tonight, says Emerald. Yes, Emerald begged us to not show any more rats. That one just jumped out in front of us. So we're here, basically in front of the Washington Monument. And one of the odd things about this network of underground steam corridors, here's where we're seeing the Capitol building over here and the Washington Monument over here, is that those corridors don't necessarily run completely parallel with the streets. In fact, right here, apparently the underground steam corridor that cuts back from that central plant up north doesn't stay aligned with 14th Street. In fact, it actually cuts underneath this lawn here in front of the Washington Monument. I wanted to see if I could find any way of tracking that while we're out and about here. And I just wanted to point out something to you guys here that may not seem super significant, but actually in our quest is very significant. Right here, and I don't know if you guys can even see this, because it is so dark here at night. We're like here in the middle of the lawn here, in front of the Washington Monument. This is like, ceremonial lawn. They've got a huge little cluster of trees here. They're basically kind of hiding this little gift shop building over here, which has, you can buy little trinkets and stuff here, and I guess there's a little exhibit here. But part of what these trees are also doing is masking right here underground. You guys can just barely see the shape of it, but this is an underground vent. Right under this lawn is another extension of that underground steam connection system, and they had to find some way, other than those street vents, to be able to basically have a little outlet for built-up steam. This vent that exists here, right between these trees, that basically is completely hidden, is a place where they do that. So, you kind of lose the trail for a while, and you wonder what's going on, because because you can't follow the vents, you can't hear the steam coming up. It's right here. They tuck it between the trees back in this part of the National Mall. So again, this is the Washington Monument. So why is DC so empty? Well, part of the reason DC is so empty is that it's 1:30 in the morning in DC. So we're going to keep following this north as best we can follow where this corridor goes. Again, there is basically the place if you want to go to the top of the Washington Monument, which we can't do at night. There's the building where you get the elevator to go up. A long time ago, they didn't have an elevator to go to the top of the Washington Monument. And if you wanted to go up all 555 feet, you had to walk up yourself, which is, not super ideal. Lance wants to see DC during the day. Well, we've done lots of videos of DC during the day, Lance, over time on our channel. And if you could dig back far enough, you can find plenty of them. But yeah, DC is definitely a different city during the day. It's really generally a different city during the summer than it is this time of year as well. So, it's starting to get really cold here, and this is the time of year where the tourists kind of dry up as we get into winter. And then all winter long, it's a little bit sparse, and then you get to like March, April, and then there's like a warm weekend, and suddenly all the little 8th grade school groups in all their little color-coded t-shirts suddenly reappear, and like clockwork, DC becomes a teeming city once again. All right, guys, you can hear it. Other side of the street, another vent. So it may seem like the vents veered back across the street. Actually, we kind of, this path kind of veered at a weird angle. So those vents are kind of cutting their way north, basically, as we head back across the National Mall. Do you need a passport to get into DC? No. Let me see, guys. Last winter in Indianapolis, manholes were flying into the air from steam pipe pressure. If you don't have venting for your underground steam system, that can happen. I mean, what's very odd about this system is how secured and locked down so many of these buildings are on their own, and yet they are connected by this underground utility tunnel network that basically is vented directly from the street. Now, I don't think you could get into it, from those vents, but if you really wanted to, you might be able to. It's definitely sort of I would call it a weak link, because I don't know how those things are secured underground, but it definitely is a link between things. And you watch like Nicolas Cage, how did he get into the National Archives from the underground? The General Services Administration apparently is very protective of giving people any kind of actual information about the underground utility tunnels. They don't want people knowing that stuff in any level of detail. Anyway, we are back here we just crossed back over the north side of downtown DC, and we're walking north, basically along the path of the next branch of these utility tunnels. So basically, where we have walked this path we walked today from the FBI, past the Department of Justice, past the FBI headquarters. Basically past the Ronald Reagan complex, which is a massive complex here that connects to the Department of Commerce. Then south across the National Mall into the L'Enfant Plaza area to the Central Plant. And then by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, the Holocaust Museum, back up north across the National Mall by the Washington Monument. All of this could be walked underground via that same network of tunnels. So we're basically just walking over those tunnels right now. Okay. I would love to roam around the Smithsonian after hours, says Mr. White. I don't know, wasn't there a movie about that? Night at the Museum? I never saw it. There was nothing inside the Air and Space Museum. Yes, I suppose that's why they call it the Air and Space Museum. Any more explosions at the FBI? No more explosions at the FBI, Emerald, that we can tell. The Ronald Reagan building was complex. All right, guys. We got him. Back on track here. Underground vents. Yeah, the Ronald Reagan building was, when that building was completed, it was the final piece of the Federal Triangle, which is basically this triangle between Constitution Avenue, which runs down there, and Pennsylvania Avenue, which runs up here. That was a hugely heralded project around 1990, and it took a huge amount of money and a huge amount of time in order for them to construct that. We already talked about how the construction of that almost sank the FBI, or sank the IRS headquarters, because they tried to reroute the underground creek. But there was a lot of suspicion when they built that maybe they were not just building a building, but also were building maybe, some other kinds of underground facilities, and maybe connecting between some things that maybe previously weren't connected. One of the things we do know they did is that they connected between this building, which is the Department of Commerce, back through an underground tunnel to the building that is immediately across the street from it, which is the main Ronald Reagan building, which is the main part of the Ronald Reagan building. So there actually is a public pedestrian tunnel that connects between those two things. So I'm taking a slight detour here, just to see if we can see anything over here. We're walking back into a part of DC just south of the White House called the Ellipse. And there's sometimes some views of the White House over here that are quite interesting. What's also pretty darn unnerving about the Ellipse here, which is basically just a giant kind of circular lawn here south of the White House, connecting the dots between the White House to the north and the Washington Monument to the south, and is home to the National Christmas Tree and things like that, is that a lot of the White House, lower level White House staffers, park back here. A lot of parking back here. And back between 2017 and 2020, there were a couple of instances of what appeared to be directed energy attacks on U.S. Foreign Service people, kind of in this very area. And we don't know who exactly committed those. But if you haven't read about directed energy attacks, read about those, because those are really scary. Basically without you even knowing, some kind of adversary can basically come in and, attack you and give you like debilitating lifelong health effects. And that is the suspicion of what was happening to people who were walking back here. And, was it some particular adversary that did that? I don't know. I would be surprised if the FBI building is the same height, also underground. I'm not sure what that means. Havana Syndrome. Yeah, the Havana Syndrome is the issue that gets created. This, by the way, is you can barely see it because it's dark. That is the National Christmas Tree. Not lit up right now because it's not Christmas, but it'll soon get there. National Christmas Tree there in front of the Washington Monument. Yeah, guys, so you're going to have to, let's see if view. There's the White House. So it's like a perfectly dead-on view of the White House here. sneaks up on you here when you walk back into the ellipse. But the White House is dark right now. You can see the fountain there on the south lawn of the White House. That is the White House right up ahead of us. You can even hear the fountain. Over on this side of the White House is where the basketball court is located that Barack Obama had put in. South of the White House is also where the running track exists that Bill Clinton had put in, and where George W. Bush used to, I guess, go on very short little bike rides with, I guess, Iraq war veterans and whatnot. There are a few different things hidden between the trees back here on the south side of the White House. The Eisenhower Executive Office building is over here, and the West Wing is kind of back in that direction. You can't see that through the trees. Helicopter does land back there, Will. That's a good point. So when the president comes back from being out of town, sometimes often they'll land the helicopter back on the south lawn there. And actually, that's a pretty surreal thing to ever see. There's a pool there too, says Jules. Yeah, there is a pool back there. It's kind of over on this side, tucked between the trees. Again, they strategically build all these trees to mask all this stuff. But yeah, if you're the president, you've got a lot of different little recreation locations back there if you want them. But again, that is the White House directly. You can see it right there. It's got the flag over top of it. But it's dark at night. They shut down the lights there at the White House again around 11:30. And that's usually that. The president's asleep. Now, I don't even know tonight if the president's in town or not. But that is generally what happens. So, anyway, I want to get back over and get back on the trail of, I guess there's some stuff about the National Christmas Tree here. They just leave the tree up all year round. Only decorate it during the holidays. No pedestrians beyond that point. I guess I should put up some kind of barricade there. So, lots of trucks here within the White House perimeter. So I gotta go back this way. There are a couple of Secret Service police over there. Is the White House or the Capitol doing tours? Yes, they are. I'm fairly certain that both. You can get tours. I don't know if there's still any COVID limitations on either one, but you can get tours of both. The best way to do that is to contact your congressperson, and they can help you get in touch. Cars parked everywhere. Where are the people, says S23? Well, any cars that are here right now are probably people who work as part of the White House complex. So although the main White House staffers generally work at a long but regular work day, they usually show up at 6 in the morning and they work pretty late. The people who actually are part of the administration. There's obviously a huge network of staff that maintain the White House 24/7 that are probably working right now. So, fairly empty parking lots, but still plenty of cars around. Now, I want to cut back up. I want to get back on our trail because, again, we are tracing the underground steam corridors, which connected all the way back to the FBI headquarters, back down to the central plant, federal government central plant, which has the boilers that create steam and feed back into all the federal buildings. We tracked it from the FBI headquarters down to the south side of DC, and now we're going to walk it back north to, we're going to walk it back to where we know it goes. Let's see. Yeah, people talking about Joe Biden. Hunter Biden's laptop, Anthony Weiner's laptop. Yes, everybody has a laptop full of illicit things, apparently. So here we are. This is like, if you're actually going to try to get into the White House complex with a car, you can kind of do that here. Obviously, huge checkpoints, very restricted. This right here is a monument to William Tecumseh Sherman, the Civil War general that famously went on a blaze of glory across the South, basically putting an end to the Confederacy at the end of the Civil War. His memorial is basically just perpetually off limits because this park, I guess, is deemed to be so security sensitive in proximity to the White House. They don't want people accessing it and being able to actually enjoy his memorial, which is a shame for him, I guess. But we're basically walking between the World War I memorial, which is over here, and the Sherman memorial, which is over here. And again, what we know is that there are steam vents, or steam tunnels that are somewhere under our feet here. We don't know exactly where they go. The last event we saw was a block or two ago, and we're going to keep tracking to see where we can find the next iteration of vents and where we hear that steam being basically being vented. But we're pretty sure that those steam vents that connect back down to the central plant, which it sounds like maybe venting right up here, connect into this building, the Treasury Department headquarters, which is a giant building here in DC. You can hear it up there. It's got steam venting down there. So, Treasury Department headquarters is right here, and we are pretty sure that those steam tunnels connect into that building and provide steam into it. It's the Treasury Department, Lady Patriot. So we're basically kind of back into the north side of downtown DC. Now, what's kind of strange at this point is we have to some extent lost the venting, which means probably those tunnels are going beneath some of these buildings. In other words, what we know at this point is that you can basically connect via underground tunnels all the way from the FBI headquarters down to the central plant back up here to the Treasury Department. And we know probably the Treasury Department connects back into the Ronald Reagan building underground. Let's see, guys. A lot of laptop comments here, guys. I don't know. I don't have any to his laptop. So I'm going to cut up in here, back toward the White House. Robin. Hi, Robin. Welcome, guys, to Land Speculation on YouTube. If you're just hanging out with us here tonight, happy to have you with us. Appreciate the engagement here in the chat, all the comments here, as we've been tracking from above the underground tunnel network here in DC. We kind of followed the path that you could take via underground tunnels from the FBI. The building we were just talking about, the Treasury Department headquarters, this is the front of it right here. It's pretty spectacular, front of the Treasury Department here. It's a massive fortress building. One of the very first tunnel connections that was built in DC, and I think Quiet was asking about this earlier, was between the Treasury Department right here, underground here, up into this building, which is an annex to the Treasury Department. So there's basically a tunnel right underneath our feet that is a pedestrian tunnel. You can hear some venting over there. We also know that FDR, after Pearl Harbor in 1941, aggressively sought about creating a tunnel, but not just a tunnel, a wheelchair accessible tunnel between the basement of the White House, which is right through these trees here, and the Treasury Department over here. Obviously, FDR was in a wheelchair during World War II, and he wanted a place where he could go if Washington, D.C. ever became under direct attack, by Germany or Japan or anybody else. And basically, they concluded at the time the Treasury Department right here was the biggest and best fortress for the president to be able to hide out. And this is basically where the presidential bunker was during World War II, underneath the Treasury Department right here. And they built a direct tunnel underneath the White House connecting into the Treasury Department. And the Treasury Department, of course, connected already underneath this building right here, this annex. And of course, part of the significance of what we just showed you is that we now know that the Treasury Department, at the very least via utility tunnels, connects directly back into the Commerce Department and the Ronald Reagan building, and then all the way back south across town to the Central Plant, and the Central Plant all the way back up across town to the Department of Labor, the Department of Justice, the IRS, National Archives, and the FBI headquarters. So why would, I guess if the president were up for an adventure, there would be a way underground for somebody to, without, coming up to street level, be able to get between all of those different facilities without being detected. And in the event of some kind of massive emergency in DC, I suppose that could be important, especially if, for some reason they needed to take a train evacuation to get to train tracks. You could basically do that directly from the White House if you needed to. It's a very, very, very interesting underground network here in this part of the city, because unlike the Capitol, again, this is not like it's not a pedestrian or heavily publicized network, even to those with badges, but it does exist. Okay. Since the Federal Reserve is actually a private entity, why are we heating their building? Well, they probably lease space from the GSA. That's exactly how they're. In fact, I'm almost positive that's what they're doing. Now that is a building too that has several underground tunnels connecting it. And someday, we could actually walk over to that one and see those tunnels. Okay. Doc says, okay, I guess there's a debate here in the chat about different scandals. Trump scandals, Hunter Biden scandals. I will say, the personal scandals of particular politicians are among my least favorite political stories out there. Everybody's trying to make a buck for themselves. And I would say a lot of politicians are pretty corrupt. It's not a good thing, but it is a thing. But when they're actually sort of actively trying to mess up people's lives, that becomes a lot more sinister. Those tunnels are not like sewer hole tunnels. I believe it's a nice tunnel with lights and all, says Mr. White. Yeah, Mr. White, that is my understanding. Like, if you wanted to, and probably they do have utility inspectors that do navigate those tunnels on occasion to inspect them and things like that. Like, there probably is a way to actually, walk through those tunnels. You're right. They're not just. It's not like crawling through a sewer. You're absolutely right. By the way, guys, again, this is the White House from the front side. And, I guess we'll walk up as close as we can legally get here. This is the tall, this is probably, how tall do we think this fence is? 12, 14 feet tall here at the White House. Anyway, this is as close as we can get to the White House. There it is. Lights are off. Fountain is fountaining. So I don't know, guys. Is Joe Biden in town tonight or not? It seems awfully quiet if he is. Looks like we have some kind of car over here. And then the West Wing, you can just barely see the West Wing over here. It's through those trees. That is where the actual Oval Office is located, stuff like that. Anyway, there is the White House up ahead of us. JW, so what are we doing here? D. Brown is asking any updates on the FBI explosions. Well, that's basically how we got here, guys. We've been walking for about an hour and a half. And basically what we did with that hour and a half is we started at the FBI headquarters today. If you go back to the very beginning of our stream, we basically started there. We checked out the scene. It is quiet at the FBI headquarters tonight. We shared our thoughts on, there are obviously a lot of theories that have percolated over the course of the last week. It's been, 5 days, 6 days since the actual explosions there. And there's been a lot of theorizing about what may have really been going on there. There's obviously the predominating story about steam vents, or steam valve, that was malfunctioning and causing the building to belch out steam. Obviously, a lot of people have theorized a lot of other things, too. Some of which are kind of out there, and some of which, I don't know. I mean, you guys can be the judge of what you think happened there at the FBI. I don't really have any, I shared with you guys as much information as I have over the course of the last couple streams. So if you missed our last couple streams where we did updates on that, please go back and watch those. We shared a few more at the beginning of tonight. And then what we said we were going to do tonight, and we actually have now done, is assuming this was in fact some kind of steam valve thing, we wanted to basically track where that steam was coming from, because we know that the FBI doesn't produce its own steam. The FBI building does not have its own boiler system. In fact, the FBI feeds into a basically what they call a district energy system that the General Services Administration operates, that feeds all 30 million square feet of federal buildings across downtown DC. All these buildings are connected by underground steam tunnels that connect back to a central plant. So we basically tracked and followed the vents across downtown DC, east-west along Constitution Avenue, and then north-south back down south of National Mall to where that central plant is located near L'Enfant Plaza, and showed you guys exactly where that steam originates. This giant utility plant down there. And then we tracked additional tunnels that come out of that plant and followed them up by several federal buildings, back up across the National Mall, across the backside of the Washington Monument, back up past the Ellipse, the southern grounds of the White House, all the way up to the Treasury Building and back to the White House here, which we know is all connected as part of that same utility network of underground steam tunnels. So why are we here at the Capitol, or why are we here at the White House, looking at this dark White House here in the middle of the night? Well, it's because we basically just followed the tunnels across downtown DC. So that's the answer. Why are we here at the White House? Remember that time that Nixon and Kissinger had their underground bunker lifted out of the ground under the White House by magnets. I'm not familiar with that story. Mr. White, I bet someone on the roof knows you're here. Yeah, there are a few Secret Service agents out here on the plaza, too, that I'm sure are, casually watching me. There's a guy over there. Now, people come here all the time, so they're just doing their job. And yeah, there are probably snipers on the roof. Like if we were to try to somehow scale this fence, I don't know how we would even do that. But if we were somehow like expert climbers and tried to scale this fence, jump over it, land in that grass, and then run around that fountain, around those bushes, and try to get into the White House, I'm sure before we got that far, somebody, either from the roof, from over here, or from within those bushes, or somewhere, would track us down and take us down. So probably not a good idea to do that. Although it does look cozy there on that first floor of the White House. Those looks very warm and nice in there. I'm sure it's very well maintained. No guard there tonight, says Michael, asleep in the booth. Could be. Robot age is on its way. Give it another 20 years. Are you sure we're not already in the robot age? S23, I found this channel the night those bombs were going off at the FBI, or those booms were going off at the FBI building. Well, glad you found us, S23. We hope this content is interesting. We've tried to do some different stuff each night since that. Basically we covered live those explosions. If you've seen any videos on TikTok, they all pilfered our footage. So if you guys watch TikTok and you see people that have basically snipped our footage and are claiming it as their own, if you wouldn't mind, letting the people in those comment sections and whatnot, know that this was the original source of that footage, and if they want the original information, they got to come here on Land Speculation on YouTube. I appreciate that. I know many people have found us through some of those other platforms, but I know there are a lot of people out there that took our footage and ran with it. But as far as I'm aware, other than that one little video that somebody had from the rooftop next door, I believe we are the only original footage of those explosions at the FBI last week. So if anybody else is claiming they have that footage, it's our footage. Anyway, we appreciate you guys being here if you found us through that. And once again, as always, I appreciate the likes and the subscribes in the video and the channel. I lose track of how often I do plugs, so if I do them too often, sorry if it's annoying, but I do appreciate the likes and the subscribes in the video. Get subscribed to our channel, as I said. Check our description for links to our Discord and our Doc Fund. If you're not on our Discord, please get on our Discord. We do appreciate the engagement there. The Discord is open for conversation and chats and articles and memes and all kinds of stuff like that. Good place to keep in touch because we always inform people before we're about to go on that we're going to be on via the Discord. So, that's a great thing to be a part of. And check the description as also for the link to our Duck Fund, which is our PayPal link if people want to help support the stream. But basically in the days since those explosions went off, we have continued to stop by the FBI just to check what's going on. And it's been quiet the last several days, but we did give several different rounds of updates on what we know to be the case over the course of the last several days. And tonight we've done this little bit offbeat tour of some of the underground tunnel networks in DC, which we hope you guys have found interesting to kind of track where some of those steam tunnels go. People were thinking boy, it doesn't make any sense that steam would have been venting out of the top of the FBI headquarters. It was an empty building because it was the middle of the night. Hopefully this answers a little bit of that question for you. Why there would have been steam going into the FBI headquarters, because it wasn't coming from the FBI headquarters. And I don't know, does it open up more Pandora's boxes about what was going on? Sprock says AI infrastructure is toast. Duck says DC is such a unique city, strange almost. I would say it's more than strange. I mean, it was built as a federal city, for the explicit purpose of being a federal city. And therefore, yeah, the whole city has this sort of, creepy government-y vibe to it. There's a lot of security here. It is a very, very, very kind of buttoned up place. You're under surveillance by the Capitol Police, says Lance. Probably not the Capitol Police here. Capitol Police don't really patrol here. Big Dog, the Yankee game was postponed tonight. I did see that. Yeah, the Yankee game was postponed tonight. Go Guardians. I agree with you, Doc. Go Guardians. People talking about Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan a little bit here. We did do a deeper dive onto that when the Taiwan stuff was breaking a couple months ago. What was going on with the whole Taiwan situation? A lot of people don't really understand the history of Taiwan. So we did a deep dive into that topic, if people missed it. If you check back through our channel, we got a lot of old streams on very interesting topics. John says Joe Biden's in California today. So if he's out of town, that's probably why the security's kind of hands off tonight. They don't always let you get this close. You know, so this makes sense that he's probably out of town. It's kind of how it feels. It's a little more casual. Sort of like when the teacher's on vacation and the substitute's there. That's sort of how this feels tonight. Well, Sprock, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us here on Land Speculation on YouTube. Jill Biden was at the Eagles game? By herself? Interesting. DC on ley lines, all Masonic layouts, all math, super symbolic, light and dark, says S23. Side stream was a great event, says David. SG Anon, explain the socially mentioned you. Oh, appreciate that, Tinka. I do really appreciate that, Tinka. Thanks for letting me know. And welcome. Someone showed the roof of the FBI building today. It says a huge traditional style HVAC on one section of its roof. So it doesn't make sense really. And Lady Patriot, that was not where those explosions happened. You know, that section of the roof is not where that steam was coming out. There is a giant HVAC system on top of the FBI. It's traditional, but yeah, that is the steam was coming out of a very different section of the building. White House is lit up pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month when the lights are on, says Mr. White. We'll have to stop by back during the day, or I guess during the evening, at some point, just to corroborate that. Steam pipes go to White House marble floors, heating system. Simples, says Will Budick. Lady Patriot, land has been mentioned by All Truth as I view daily. Okay. Thanks, lady. I need to wear a bulletproof vest. Well, we're certainly risking our own, like, personal temperature comfort. It's a chilly night tonight. So, you know, hope you guys appreciate that we're risking our own personal inconvenience for entertainment. Is Lance Blair somebody maybe watching Pornhub in the White House? I don't know. I assume if you're the president, you can do anything you want on the internet. I mean, they're not going to stop you. Like, the president's a person too. Now, I will tell you, I have heard stories of people getting caught on federal agency computer systems watching porn and getting fired for it, because they do monitor that stuff for some of the federal agencies. And don't, if you have like a federal job for a federal agency, you know, do that on your own computer, on your own time, like not on your work computer, because it's not going to probably do very well for your job. SG Anon thinks the military's blowing up the tunnels in DC. I don't know, guys. I mean, there are lots of theories out there. Yeah, you just need a warm jacket in DC. Okay, guys. Thank you for letting me know that people are in fact attributing us. Land has over 30 different TikToks using his footage this degree. Yeah, that's what I was noticing. Is the TikTok folks seem to be the most pervasive in just taking the footage. which, you know, oh well. Me. Like, I think, like you, not me. I'm me. You're you. Me says, the weird sound made me think of a video I saw online once where a squirrel cage blower with a failed bearing would get to a certain speed, then wobble, hit the housing, then stop from the impact. I have to digest what that means. Strange days. Things seem way off lately. Corydon. Hi, Corydon. Me, I'm not sure how it explains what looked like smoke of steam spewing out. Well, I mean, that's almost assuredly what was going on, is that, you know, it was steam coming out of steam valves. Understanding steam tunnels is very common. Yeah, I wouldn't think that there are a whole lot of people on the internet, period, that understand, you know, the ins and outs of district energy systems running underneath cities. It's like, it's not mainstream knowledge. Yeah, the CIA headquarters, people are asking, is in Langley, Virginia. DC is one of 3 power centers on the planet. All 3 have identical phallic monuments. DC, the Vatican, and London. What does that mean, Michael? What are you suggesting? David, would be very interested in a Taiwan deep dive. Yeah, we could. I mean, we did a little bit of a Taiwan deep dive, but I've been wanting for a long time to do a general deep dive onto China, and maybe we could sort of blend those two together, because it's hard to really tell the story about the communist revolution in China without also telling the story of Taiwan, and vice versa. You can't really understand Taiwan without understanding the whole history of Mao and how Taiwan came to be, and why China and Taiwan, you know, don't really get along. It's a pretty deep history to that. It's pretty intense. It's pretty amazing that Taiwan exists in the first place. The U.S. has a lot to do with why Taiwan exists in the first place. A lot of why Taiwan exists in the first place is Truman threatening to use nukes on China. And if China doubted Truman, all Truman had to say was, you know, go ask Japan. Yeah, the U.S. has a lot to do with why Taiwan exists. But we can do a deep dive into that whole topic. Not well-informed people often have no idea where the President of the United States, Joe Biden, is at any time. That's true. But I think a lot of informed people also have no idea where President Joe Biden is at any point. I don't, you know, make a habit of keeping track of his daily calendar. I'm sure somebody does. Like, for somebody that's their job, is keeping track of exactly where Joe Biden is going every day. But, you know, I got my hands full, like, keeping track of where I'm going every day, much less where Joe Biden's going. Russell Wilson's cooking tonight. Johnson, what was the score? Yeah, he's a little weird. Oh, Jeanette's posting the Taiwan stream. Okay, thanks, Jeanette. Okay, so anyway, that's the White House. I'm going to take a little walk north from White House. The explosions did increase in increments over a period of time, I recall, from 17 seconds to 20 seconds apart, 90 seconds plus, Steve Brown. They seemed, I don't know, I never noticed that long intervals between them. Seemed to be pretty consistently between 10 and 20 seconds. Seems no one here actually knows where this supposed explosion happened, so there's that. I can tell you pretty definitively where it happened on the building. And you know, I mean, you can go watch our footage. It's pretty obvious where it happened. But it was bizarre optics, whatever it was. That's true. And you know, part of our point was like, you know, I'll take them at their word that it was a steam explosion, or you know, a steam valve. I mean, possible it was something else. But man, that's irresponsible. I mean, I'm a defender of the interests of residents who live in downtown Washington. We have been since the protests of 2020 because we're residents of downtown Washington. Washington, D.C. is a big city. It's a federal capital, but it also is home to tens of thousands of people who live in the downtown. And that is very disconcerting to people when they start hearing explosions at federal buildings going on for 8 hours in the middle of, well, the FBI headquarters. And for the FBI not to have even released a statement about what the hell was going on to assure public safety and things like that seems awfully, you know, I don't know, irresponsible or something. Tinder-hot.xyz, best adult dating site. I thought the other thing was the best adult dating site. Tinder-hot.xyz. I have generally found the best adult dating sites to be sites that end in .xyz. I don't know. Explore at your own risk. You can't even watch YouTube at work in most places as well. Depends on the place, yeah. This is, by the way, the statue of Andrew Jackson here in Lafayette Park. In, you know, we got the, this is actually a very cool view, by the way. We got the Andrew Jackson statue here, we got the White House, and we got the Washington Monument tucking behind. DC is basically a city built for photography. But this sculpture of Andrew Jackson is quite significant. There's I guess a matching sculpture down at Jackson Square in New Orleans. But this is one of the statues that was, you know, quite extensively vandalized during the riots of 2020. Spray painted the word killer, and people tried to put ropes around it and tear it down back in June of 2020. But they didn't succeed, so it's still here. I'm not a huge fan of Andrew Jackson myself as a historical figure, but, you know, some people really like him. Let me see. The CIA building is several miles north along the Potomac, east of McLean, Virginia. Yeah, we're not very close to the CIA building. Okay, Ukraine's power grid will collapse anytime now, says Lou Hammer. Well, we haven't really talked about Ukraine today. We're going to do a deep dive into Ukraine sometime soon. Man, it has taken them forever to rehabilitate this bathroom pavilion over here. Why doesn't just tear it down and rebuild something new? So no explosions right now. Yeah, right now there are no explosions in DC. All right. Anyway, this is the St. John's Church. You guys remember that from 2020? This is a famous church in DC anyway. I mean, this is every president as far back as this church has existed has attended service here. It is a Protestant Episcopal church completed in 1816. So it is over 200 years old. And it is a small little church, but all the presidents go to his services here And this church became an epicenter of activity during the mass protests of 2020, when people broke into the basement of it and burned it back in early June of that year, which led to the day after that famous photo op of Trump holding the Bible. Look at this little scooter party going on here. We're having a little convention. And it was basically right over here where Trump did that photo op, the Bible in front of the entrance to the church here. Right there. Main Steam knowledge. That's good, Michael. Big Dog, any Bible streams in our future? Yeah, Big Dog. We've just been traveling for... We were out of town this weekend, so I just got to get back to the right equipment to do that. But yeah, the Bible streams are still in our future, guys. We have not forgotten about them. They will come back. We've been planning to do a series of streams on just trying to like interpret different stories from the Bible. It's heavily requested, so we'll get into that at some point. We also are going to do our periodic table bracket. It's been like the longest, most promised thing, but it will eventually come back. We'll do our periodic table, the elements bracket, sometime soon. China will attack soon. USA is out of ammo. Yeah, US has sent a lot of ammo over to Ukraine. We're walking now along Black Lives Matter Plaza. I guess we're walking through the word matter. There's the R, the word matter. This has really been built up and formalized as a pedestrian plaza out here. Black Lives, 3 exclamation points. But otherwise, pretty quiet here. Kim Carpenter. Hi, Kim Carpenter. I heard your voice on another channel. You stated exactly what I posted in comments on your FBI building video. I can't remember what that would have been, Kim. But anyway, thank you for joining us. Should be public knowledge what Joe Biden's schedule is. He works with people. It probably is. I don't know. You check his website. It'll probably tell you where he's... Check the whitehouse.gov website. Does it tell his whereabouts every day? I assume it does. I assume it's public. I assume if you call the White House, they'll tell you, too, where he's going to be. Let's see, guys. I was surprised by the lack of response about the FBI thinks is S-23. They should have made a statement. Yeah, S-23. And, you know, if people were in fact calling them and they told people, you know, that it wasn't happening, like, that's not responsible. I don't know. I can't corroborate that. People told me that. First Church of Christ Scientist. You can see the steam pipes on top of the corner of the building. Final says we saw the steam. So, tonight we tracked the steam tunnels. If you want to know the source of that steam, we've basically walked that corridor. Now, we kind of stopped talking about the steam corridors when we got to the White House here. They do continue north a little bit, but basically they run out of steam. As far as I'm aware, I think they run out of steam basically at the Treasury Department. And I don't really know what happens to them north of that. But it's basically, I mean, the network that the central plant there that we visited, feeds steam to, kind of veers off in one direction that goes up to the White House here in the Treasury, then in the other direction back to the FBI and some of those other buildings. So that's basically what we know about the steam tunnel network in DC. And by the way, we've walked up here all the way to K Street, which is the cross street here. K Street is the most preeminent commercial street in Washington. So Pennsylvania Avenue is like the federal corridor. This is like the commercial corridor. All the lobbyists and law firms and companies like that exist along K Street here. And that runs east-west. The St. Regis Hotel is a very nice little hotel here close to the White House. A lot of fancy hotels in D.C. When were there explosions at the FBI building for 8 hours? Last Tuesday, John. And I know a lot of people, saying here like, what are you talking about? This has been resolved. We know it's a steam explosion. Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much like that's what this was. I know there are people that still have other theories on it, but that's what it was. It was some kind of malfunctioning steam valve. But there's been a ton of interest in it. And so I felt like we needed to keep offering a few updates on this as we get them. And I hope, today's is interesting too. But it says something, obviously, how interested people have been in this story. It certainly shows how sort of skeptical people are of the FBI, certainly of just generally of government narratives in general, and that itself is a story, and what an interesting one. It had to be a pipe or something, says Jake Williams. Yep. A lot of lies have been written about Andrew Jackson's history, says Karma. Since he kicked the central banker's butts 3 times. Yeah, he was not a fan of the central bank. The area looks so much better now Trump is in office, says David Miller, about this plaza. Let me see, guys. How far behind am I, by the way, on the chat here? I'm trying to keep up with the chat, guys, so don't get too far behind. Tinder-hot.xyz is advertising here again. If anybody wants to, have a good time, explore that at your own risk. But the sex bots are back, attacking us. Where do the sex robots keep coming from? Well, that's mysterious, isn't it? We put on subscribers only mode once, and the sex bots were still coming after us, which means we literally have sex bots subscribed to the channel. I don't know what it is about our content that is so alluring, enticing, exotic to the sex bots, but apparently our content is very titillating. All right. Land, we got to get you inside so our viewers can see other great content you create. So yeah, guys, we aren't always out on the town in DC. Although, we do that from time to time, and that's sort of how we got started, was doing live walks and duck feeding in downtown DC. But actually, a lot of the time we're inside doing deep dive content. And we've done deep dives into a whole bunch of different subjects. More kind of conventional podcast style streaming. The audio is better, for one thing, and we can organize the thoughts a little bit more crisply and coherently when we do that. But anyway, we will be back inside here in short order so people can, if you have suggestions for, topics you want us to cover in deep dives, I'm always open to them. Obviously, we've got a long list of things that we are planning to cover, but certainly open to suggestions always of things people would like to see us cover. The sex bots make new accounts every day. They're very resilient, aren't they? Snack break, says Jake Williams. Not for me. You guys can eat like whatever you want while we stream. There are no rules about that. You guys are free to eat or drink or whatever you want to do. You can wear anything you want. Just remember that if the device, that means I can see you. So, just be careful. Where are all the people, says Kim Carpenter. Creepy. I don't know, guys. Is it really that unusual or creepy that here at 2:33 in the morning there aren't that many people out and about? Like, how many places are teeming with people at 2:33 in the morning on a Monday night? I'm kind of sometimes surprised there are as many random people out and about at 2:30 in the morning on a Monday night as there are. Just amazing difference between today and exactly 2 years ago in this exact space, says David Miller, talking about this sort of zone in front of the White House of Lafayette Park and H Street and 16th Street, which 2 years ago was continually mired in seemingly never-ending protests that had kind of graffitied and occupied that space for months on end, starting in June of 2020. And now, very few people there. I mean, literally nobody there, actually, tonight. Yeah, big difference between today and a couple years ago. Tuesday morning, 2:30 a.m., people are in bed, says Will Whittick. Yeah, I would imagine most people are. Why are you guys not in bed? I know I can try to, justify why I'm not in bed, but why are you guys not in bed? Or are you in bed? Some people watch us, and apparently our voices, or my voice, is so soothing that it puts people to sleep. I've been told my voice is puts people to sleep. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Are there any restaurants open, says Jake Williams. I can't imagine, Jake. There might be one or two that are... I can't imagine any bars, even bars are open until, past 2:30 on a Monday night in downtown DC. Map the steam tunnels in the lobby of our Discord, says Jeanette. Yeah, I'll post a couple more resources on that topic. Guys, if you did find that interesting tonight, I don't know. Well, I mean, give me feedback on that, guys. Was it interesting to sort of walk through the steam tunnels here tonight? I feel like, it seemed like maybe it was, but I, wasn't getting a ton of direct feedback on that. So let me know. We can do more where that came from in DC. I mean, we've done a lot of the sort of touristy stuff in DC, but showing you guys a little bit more of the kind of underground guts of the city is something we can aspire to do as we are able. But you guys have to let us know that. There is possibly other stream or central heating plants outside in the suburbs as well. Davis is one of the best streams ever. Well, thank you, David. Rich's channel. Great work, yo. It seems very quiet tonight in DC. If an actual sex robot malfunctioned, you could be severely injured, says Bequeathius. I don't know if the sex bots that are posting on our stream are the same thing as the sex bots that, you know, are that kind of sex bot. But maybe they just double up. There should be a land speculation dating site, says Bequeathius. It's a good idea, Bequeathius. It's for human duck relationships with no judgment. Land speculation dating. America's the only country talking about nukes. We love to put fear in people. Our podcast. So, Robin, we don't do formal podcasts, although we have talked about it. The deep dives on our channel are on our channel. You just have to scroll back through our videos. We, you know, again, we stream basically usually about 4 nights a week. Usually Monday through Thursday, we're pretty reliably on. Sometimes we're on Fridays, sometimes Sundays. Sometimes we'll do a twofer. But it's kind of random whether we're inside or outside, just kind of based on where and how we're traveling and what's going on in the world. But yeah, I mean, all of our deeper dives are here. If you need help locating particular things, certainly our mods can help, and I can help too. But if you just scroll back on our channel, you know, go back to our old videos, you'll find stuff. We got some kind of, you know, as always, late at night here in DC, we got police sirens once again. Not police sirens, but flashing police lights down here, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know, some kind of traffic stop or something. There's always stuff going on at night in downtown DC. Robin's awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you, Robin. Things got weird after midnight. That's true. Calming the Chaos is on the couch. Hi, Calming the Chaos. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. GM. Is it GMAA? Still Monday, 11:35 p.m. So it's earlier where you are. Oh, geez, guys, look at that. That was a giant rat. I don't know. Emerald keeps telling me not to show rats, but sometimes they're just there. Did you guys catch a glimpse of that one? That was a pretty big rat. Kim is laying in bed with giant schnauzer and giant poodle watching the video. Do dogs like the videos? Well, tell your dogs thanks for watching us. Dog-friendly content. Okay, we got events here. Vinyl wants to see the Watergate. Okay, Vinyl. One of these nights, yes. The Watergate. Like, we've got to take a beeline to the Watergate because it takes a long time to walk there. But yes, the Watergate has been requested. We had some rainy nights last week, which would make, complicated things a little bit. But on a dry night, yeah, we can do the Watergate. Most certainly. Emerald wants to walk through the steam tunnels, but I'm going to be paranoid if I see rats down there. I don't even get into the steam tunnels, guys. They seem pretty touchy about the steam tunnels. Like, I don't think you're supposed to go down there as a civilian. Okay, Will found it interesting. Appreciate that. John, I see no human on the sidewalk in Seattle. There is humans everywhere. Does it make a difference what time of day in Seattle you're seeing humans out on the sidewalks? Because I can guarantee in DC there are times of day when there are humans out on the sidewalks. I'm going to show you guys one more thing. Well, I'll show you guys a couple more things tonight, so don't run away yet. Funyuns onion snacks is S23. Yeah, they're pretty good. I'm like decently pro Funyuns. They sleep to your voice as Kim. Okay, we gotta go back this way because they're blocking the street down there. Blocking the sidewalk. They're at Metro Center. Speaking of tunnels, that is massive interchange of the subway system here in DC. Some people go back and listen to old land streams to fall asleep, says Bequeathius. I notice some days my voice is more in the kind of soft and soothing and tempered style, and other days my voice is a little bit more like on edge, and I don't know what drives that. It might just be kind of just daily mood. I feel like today my voice is generally in sort of calmer spirits. I think the last stream we did was maybe a little bit more intense, but I guess it depends. Okay, yeah, we had a rat there. Sometimes they just there. That's true. Yeah, sometimes the rats just appear. So these three buildings across the street are buildings we're pretty sure are all connected via underground tunnels. The Ronald Reagan building there, the Wilson building, and the Department of Commerce there. Those are pedestrian tunnels, though. And there's a Potbelly sandwich shop. Kim, your voice soothed my schnauzer and poodle to sleep. Interesting. John's giving us a lot of poop emojis. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Land has that soothing steam tunnel tour guide voice as I'm working. Robin, funny how I edit comments in real time. Sometimes I do just read the gist of the comment, guys. And, you know, if I ever lose the meaning of what you had to say, I guess that's not intentional. Sometimes I will edit out, like, bad words. You know, because sometimes there are comments where there's, like, a good point followed up by something that seems like it's kind of in poor taste. And, you know, if there's a way I can sort of parse out the difference between those two parts of the comment, I'll try. Pence and his wife sexually assaulted 177 children and killed 51 of them? Wow, James, that would be a big story, wouldn't it? And he seems like such a mild-mannered guy, too. It's Ollie's Trolley. I'll never forget walking by this outdoor restaurant here. I guess this is Harry's Bar. On election night 2020, we streamed for about 6 hours of live walking around outside. That's 6 hours times 3 to 4 miles an hour. We probably walked 20 miles while streaming on election night in 2020 for 6 hours. But I would never forget walking by this particular cafe at the juncture where Trump had just won Texas, the 2020 election. And for a brief time there that night, people thought that the 2020 election was going to be a repeat of 2016. And those Trump folks were just celebrating like mad there. They thought that Trump was going to do it again. Has your research into the tunnels led you into the Washington, D.C. subway yet? I have spent a lot of time in the D.C. metro system over the years. And in fact, we actually have taken a quick gander down into the metro tunnels on our streams before. In fact, one time we went down some escalators that were incredibly squeaky and unpleasant sounding as part of our streams. But it's super late at night, so we can't do that now. But the tunnels, the subway tunnels in D.C., it's a whole different network of tunnels. In fact, there was a lot of sensitivity when they built the metro tunnels in D.C., starting in 1976, around having to avoid the various utility tunnels. Now, there are a lot of utility tunnels in D.C. that are incredibly sensitive and, things people don't even want to know about, like NASA tunnels and stuff down there. But they had to dig the subway tunnels basically under that. And it was apparently quite a complicated ordeal to do that. But that's a separate network of tunnels. And occasionally you'll walk across parts of downtown DC and you'll hear the trains running underneath your feet. So that is also a thing. There, by the way, is the old Trump Hotel. That is now the Waldorf Astoria in DC here. And that is pretty cool in the lobby. Although very expensive drinks. Most of their cocktails are well over $30. Not to mention the rooms. Talking $600+ a night. But it's luxurious. Potbelly sandwiches are pretty good, says Bequeathius. When I'm in the mood, I don't know, they're okay. Depends if I'm in the mood. You might as well start giving all these rats names. If we started feeding the rats, guys, that'd be a way to maybe drive away audience. We're back here at the FBI headquarters, by the way. We're just sort of walking by it en route to some other stuff. But you can see it's very quiet here. Is Roger Stone a Batman alien? Or Batman villain? I guess that'd make more sense than a Batman alien. Batman alien would be interesting. I don't know what that would entail. Boy, nude pictures of Alex Jones. That would be interesting. You guys can hear faintly in the background the fountain in the courtyard of the FBI headquarters. I guess when you're doing FBI stuff, you need to be calm and relaxed, so they have a fountain there, try to soothe your spirit. Robin, it's your show. Enjoy the walks. World War I stopped because of wolves attacking the soldiers? Emerald says, why Trump made Pence VP, I'll never understand. Apparently Trump really had a tough time the night he was having to pick his VP. He really was kind of on the fence about Pence. And he kind of went back and forth. He was contemplating a couple different people. And he was calling people like frantically that night, trying to decide, should I pick him, should I not pick him? And ultimately he did. And, you know, for a long time, they got along very well. You see the Capitol up ahead. If you missed our stream, let's see, last Thursday, did we go to the Capitol? I'm trying to remember, guys, which nights we went, which places. But yeah, last Thursday, I believe we went to the Capitol. Last Wednesday, we went down to the Lincoln Memorial. Or was it vice versa? I don't know. Last night we did some streams, kind of went both directions to the National Mall. If you missed some of the touristy stuff, we may go back down to the Capitol here at some point to talk more about the Capitol Complex network of tunnels. Because this has been, I think, interesting to people to kind of hear about these tunnels. Here's some more sidewalk shocking here. DOJ, stop impersonating the Soviet secret police. The pro-life rescuers don't deserve your political persecution. So I guess being the FBI is persecuting pro-life people to some degree. David Miller, I'd be interested in seeing how much more information you could learn and report on about those subterranean schemata for various utilities, etc. purposes. I will do my best to learn as much as I can. Trump shits his depends a lot. Well, that was the John McCain joke about, you know, whether he wears boxers or briefs, and he responded with depends. Does Trump shit his depends? I don't know. Does Trump have incontinence issues? I hadn't heard that. It's not in his publicly released medical report. It'd be embarrassing if he did. I mean, would it affect if you knew that the presidential candidate that you supported otherwise had like incontinence issues, would that affect whether or not you would be willing to vote for them or not? Or would you be like, you know what, I vote for people because I think they make the best candidate. I don't really care whether or not they shit their pants. I don't know. It's something to think about. Rats are protein for some. So we are back walking down Pennsylvania Avenue. Late in Washington, D.C. tonight. If you missed the first hour and a half on our stream, we did a walk tracking the underground steam tunnels from the FBI headquarters, where steam was belching out last week for hours out of the top of that building. Back to the source of that steam at the central plant on the south side of DC, and some of the vents that run underground and connect those tunnels. We also track those tunnels back up all the way to the White House, where they also connect through too. Those escalators were awful, says Jeanette, talking about the subway escalators. I think they put some WD-40 on them, so they're a little better now. This is the Federal Trade Commission here. This is right around the spot where we once saw somebody defecating on the street here on Pennsylvania Avenue. That was quite the... I don't know, like of all the places to just defecate in public, Pennsylvania Avenue. I think somebody once asked about this Atlas monument sculpture thing. It's kind of a weird, just like Atlas. Looks like he's kind of like strangling a horse or something. It's interesting. We were in bed watching Land give us a tour of the steam system in DC, says Lady Patriot. Yeah, just don't fall asleep. Well, you can fall asleep on us. I guess it doesn't matter. I do sometimes wonder that, because sometimes we'll end our stream and we'll leave up the video for a while after we stop talking when we're doing the indoor streams. And eventually, people keep chatting for a while, and eventually the chatter slows down and people stop chatting. And the chat will grind to a halt, and yet it will still show sometimes that we have like 30 people watching us. I'm wondering, where are those 30 people? And I think what's going on is that people literally just fall asleep with our stream running in the background. Rats taste like chicken. Does everything taste like chicken? Let me see, guys. Let me double check. I'm trying to stay within like at least 3 to 5 minutes of the chat here, because I don't want to get too far behind, because you guys, I know it's kind of not as enjoyable. There's the Canadian Embassy, by the way. Is Joe Biden's picture at the visitor center? At the White House Visitor Center? I have not checked. I mean, what is the suggestion if it's not there? Like, somehow they're like not recognizing him as a legitimate president or something. This sense of humor is really something, says David Miller. All right, well, I just wanted to give a little bit more grounding to the reality of the underground tunnel system here in DC. Of course, we tracked utility tunnels through a big portion of tonight's stream. And you know those utility tunnels exist. I guess we were tracking the venting and able to actually, show you guys the plant. There are also these very, much more sort of actualized pedestrian tunnels that people actually can take and that are even public. So I just wanted to share with you guys this tunnel, which is much more publicly visible here between the west wing of the National Gallery of Art, which is the traditional. It was one, I think, of all the Smithsonian museums in the National Mall, this might be my favorite, save maybe the Air and Space. But this sort of the traditional west wing of the National Gallery of Art, which is it's where you have the Impressionist collection and the sculptures and things like that, predates. This was built, I believe, in the 20s as a building, as sort of a traditional art museum here as part of the Smithsonian. Connects to this wing which was built in 1978, 79. The east wing of the National Gallery of Art, which was designed by a Chinese-American architect named I.M. Pei, and is a very modernist building and hosts a lot more modern art. It's a much smaller building, but is home to sculpture and just sort of generally modern art. Looks like right now they have an exhibit on Black artists of the American South. But this is, a much more modern building here as part of the National Gallery of Art. When they built this new building, they had to basically connect the two, and obviously you can walk between the two here across, what is this, 6th Street, 5th Street? 5th Street, 4th Street? One of these streets here in downtown DC. But you don't have to cross at street level, because actually underground is a tunnel that connects between the two buildings. It basically is like a big, long, moving sidewalk like you'd find at the airport. And it's very artistic between the two sides. And between the two, they built this little section of little sculptural pyramids, almost like you're at the Louvre pyramid in France. And when you walk along here, you can actually see down through this is actually a fountain most of the time. It actually, I guess these squirt water and they kind of drain down these steps over here into some drainage. But you can actually see down these windows into the underground space here. And you can even see that there are chairs and tables down in that tunnel space between the two buildings. And I guess then if we walk around here, these little pyramids, I.M. Pei used to build a lot of little pyramids like this. You can actually, well, you can't really see that much, but you can just barely sort of see down into these spaces underneath, and they're very reflective. Anyway, just to sort of corroborate the fact that there are a great many tunnels. Here you go, I guess. This is perhaps clearer. A great many tunnels in DC, many of which are fully pedestrianized. Let's see. Majority of our government and officials are compromised by the New World Order freaks on both sides, says James. S23 wants us to break in. Yeah, I don't think it would go very well. I wouldn't suggest doing a lot of that kind of stuff in really anywhere, but especially in DC. You'll probably get into some trouble for that kind of thing. You can see the Capitol Dome poking through there. Winner, by the way, is Lady Patriot tonight. Congratulations, Lady Patriot. Oh, I did some good taste editing, Robin. I don't even know, Robin. I do it like, everything's a matter of course. And I don't have, I have like a really good long-term memory and a very bad short-term memory. So usually I don't remember what I just read. Which is why, by the way, guys, if you are posting something in response to something that I said, usually helps to reference what it was that I said in your response, because otherwise I may not put the pieces together. All right. By the way, guys, you are watching Land Speculation on YouTube. Appreciate the hangout tonight, all the interesting chatter and commentary. If anybody hasn't dropped a like or subscribe on the video, I do appreciate that. Those likes help us out with YouTube. If you're not subscribed to our channel, those subscribes can help you guys know when we're on. If you're new to our channel, glad to have you with us. We stream basically 4 nights a week. We used to do literally 7 nights a week, and that kind of became untenably exhausting. So we don't do quite that. Sometimes we're inside, sometimes we're outside, sometimes we're doing deep dives into various topics of interest, and we're certainly happy to address the topics that you'd like us to chat about. And sometimes we're showing you things in DC, like tonight when we have been tracking the underground DC steam tunnel network across the city, showing you guys where the steam originated from that spewed out of the top of the FBI headquarters last week, which we hope is interesting and informative. But if you haven't dropped a like or subscribe on the stream tonight, I do appreciate that. Those likes, again, they do help us out. Subscribes help us out, help you guys out too. Check our description for links to our Discord. If you check the description, the first link in there is the Discord. Join the Discord. The second link is the Duck Fund. If you want to help support the stream, I appreciate contributions to our Duck Fund. Chris says good morning. Hi, Chris. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. I don't know. Is it like really late or really early where you are? Where do you draw the line between really late and really early? Lady Patriot, I have no idea what the winner means. Well, Lady Patriot, when you win, you officially win 2 cents. Uh-oh, somehow I got trapped in the forbidden zone here. I guess we got to exit the forbidden zone. And we'll walk up here and see the ionic colonnade here of the West Wing of the National Gallery of Art, since we just talked about it. But when you win 2 cents. So congratulations on your 2 cent victory. It is most definitely not worth it for you to claim your 2 cents, because to claim your 2 cents, you need to send me a pre-stamped envelope. And that'll cost you more than 2 cents. So nobody's ever taken me up on their 2 cent winnings. But if you want to, email me. landspeculation@gmail.com is the email address. Vinyl says 168 likes. Let's make it more like 200. Yeah, I appreciate that, Vinyl. Yeah, guys, we're getting close. I do always appreciate the likes. Gas was 220 under Trump. Bring back the mean tweets, please, says John John. If you can't control your own bowels, says Karma, how can you control the country? Trump's an American icon. Okay, I just want to show you guys this. Another one of these giant doors. We were talking about the giant doors last week. Why do all the DC buildings have gigantic doors? It's because the way that the minerals in the water supply work here in DC, people that are born as native Washingtonians actually average about 3.5 feet taller than the average American from other states. And a lot of people don't know that because you don't usually see DC statistics lumped in with the statistics for the other states, but it means the doors in this city have to be substantially taller than elsewhere. Okay, so these are ionic columns here at the National Gallery of Art. This is a little bit less ornate a colonnade than at the National Archives, and there is no fluting on these columns. DC architecture mixes and matches Greek and Roman classicizing colonnades. Pretty random interchangeability. We've got competing fountains on either side of us here at the National Gallery. And a lot of placards telling us thank you for visiting, which is a little bit weird because we didn't actually visit the art museum. We just saw the outside of the art museum. Okay, let me get caught up on some of your comments here. Will Buddick, I like suckling pig for lunch. Okay, interesting. Okay, Biden. Jonathan thinks Biden is a fraud. You ever gone from the Jefferson Memorial? Rebecca's asking. Yeah, we have done the Jefferson Memorial this late. Jefferson Memorial is really cumbersome to get to, as our long-timers can attest. It's like that is a slog to get over the Jefferson Memorial. Not only is it far, it's just hard to get there because you got to go along the tidal basin and you got to really wrangle some thick vegetation in order to do that. But we have done it, and we will do it again. So, if you get subscribed, eventually we'll go to the Jefferson Memorial and every other memorial, by the way. There's like lots of places we can go see in DC, including some we've never done. Okay. Let me see. I'm skipping ahead, guys, a little bit here. I'm seeing some various culture war comments in the chat. I'm lurking needs a dictionary. Pyramids, says Kim. Yeah, we were just looking at the pyramids there at the National Gallery a second ago. Land is poking fun in DC, says Calming the Chaos. Oh, Tinder-hot.xyz. Is that why our view count declined there? Did people jump off and they're going to find a date there on Tinder.xyz website? It's nice to learn things about DC, says Lady Patriot. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Lady Patriot, and congratulations on your victory here. Some nights the chat is sexier. Let's see. I'm reading through your comments, guys. 23 degrees, snowing in upper Minnesota, says Ghosty. Upper Minnesota is really pretty in the summer, Ghosty. I spent a lot of my life up in northern Minnesota. Really enjoyed it in the summer months. Some beautiful little towns up there. A lot of Paul Bunyan statues. What part of northern Minnesota are you in? Are you near the headwaters of the Mississippi up there? It's a beautiful, beautiful area, but not this time of year. And by this time of year, I mean the 11 months of the year when it's snowing there are not so nice. The other parts of the year are fine. I don't know what these, what is this stuff on the ground? Is this snow? We have these, you guys can't see it because it's dark. Anyway, there's these big white spots on the ground. I don't know what this is. Anyway, there's the Capitol once again. Oh no, we're walking into the wind. Let's see if I can block it. Party going on there at the Jesus tent. Give it a second, guys. Wind. Rebecca's DC born and raised. Let's see if I walk this way. Does this help block the wind? Alabama and Flint, Michigan don't have safe drinking water. Jefferson Memorial is beautiful late, says Rebecca. It's beautiful for sure. And, I really enjoy going to the Jefferson and looking out at the axes, because from the Jefferson Memorial, you're basically on direct access back to the White House, and you look directly at the Martin Luther King Memorial, which looks at Thomas Jefferson, and that's directly on axis with the Lincoln Memorial. It's a pretty spectacular place. So at some point we'll go out there and show you guys that scene once again. Usually we're able to stop by the FDR Memorial on the way there, which is quite interesting too. Are we pronouncing Amg? I don't know. One of the few rules on our streams, by the way, as you hear the wind behind us, and hopefully it's not too bad, is that if you are going to say you are lolling, you have to actually loll. You can't just say you're lolling, you have to actually loll. And the same thing, if you're waffling, you have to actually roll on the floor and laugh. And if you're rafflemayoing, you have to actually roll on the floor and laugh your ass off. And if your ass does not fall off from laughter, then you can't post that comment. It was a very sexy chat. Yeah, we try to keep it spicy here, guys. You know, spicy and exotic and titillating. I've been told that my voice is an aphrodisiac. Or maybe I just made that up. But now you're going to think about it. This is a pagan city. Oh no. Karma, I have pretty unpopular opinions, but I'm pretty civil about it. We don't mind if you guys have unpopular opinions, but just please express them civilly and respectfully to others, as always. You know, that's kind of all we ask here. We try to accommodate basically any viewpoint in the chat. Just don't attack other people and express it respectfully and, you know, within reason. We've got great mods on our channel, by the way. You know, hope you guys appreciate the work our mods do on our channel on behalf of our stream. You know, they work very hard to keep this place running smoothly, so we appreciate people making life easy on them. John says DC is satanic. Upper Minnesota area called the Iron Range, very beautiful, tons of wildlife. After all these years, it still freaks me out having a deer looking into your window at night. Yeah, it would freak me out in northern Minnesota, just having like bears walk around. Monuments reflected in the tidal basin too can be very beautiful. Yep, very true. Okay, this is the David's Tent, DC. This is the Jesus Tent. There's 24/7. People are here playing music right now, having a blast. Good times there, apparently. If we are not actually lolling, then what do we say? Oh, you just got to be literal. You know, if you're like, if you're making like a little smirk on your face, but not actually making like audible chuckle noises, then just say that. You know, if you like couldn't help yourself and a little squeaky chuckle slipped out, then tell us that. If you need help determining, like if you had like a little ha slip out of your mouth, but it wasn't maybe like a full-blown laugh, reach out to our mods via direct message for help in determining whether it qualifies fully as a lol or not. You know, our mods are very good at distinguishing the fine line. It's like when they do NFL replay, and it's like, you know, did the ball cross? Did the tip of the ball cross the plane? You know, did the chuckle cross the plane into laughter? Yeah, we can help you figure that out. Land is trying to break the wind. Yes, I often find myself trying to break wind on the stream here. sometimes there's a lot of wind to have to brake. And you just gotta let it rip. It is steamy. We did have a very steamy stream tonight, guys. We hope you appreciate the intensity, steaminess of our stream. Talking dirty is a skill, says Bequeathius. Emerald's back. Hey, Emerald. David says okay, we need to amend the rules. Any rotflameoing must have video recording posted to the Parthenon. I think you could just post it on the Discord. And you could have people vote on whether it qualifies or not. It's a good idea. Wow. Okay, John's really having a good time right now. Mrs. is going to be mad at me. Well, I mean, just because my voice is an aphrodisiac to others, I can't help that. Okay. Let's see. Squeaky chuckle should be an oxymoron. I don't know. Whatever kind of chuckle people do. I don't really understand this sculpture, but here's like a honeycomb with a giant insect thing that's kind of scary. Oh, it's a bee. Which makes sense for the honeycombs. But it's not colored like a bee, so it's a little hard to distill. Anyway, it's a giant sculpture of a bee here for some reason. And then these like random big rocks. "24/7, 365, someone is doing something in Washington, D.C. that they want people to pay attention to," says Yada, yeah. Donna's ass really fell off. That is some serious laughter. I don't even know how that works. Like, I need a doctor to explain it. Crypto, wow, you do have some great mods. Most would just ban me. We try to, like, unless you're being like a jackass to people. I don't usually ban people for views and things. Call Me the Chaos and Donna are having a good time here. Good. Breaking wind, are we talking farts or the weather? Well, therein lies the double entendre, doesn't it? Got some venting, guys. I've become very sensitive to the venting. That actually is a corridor where I believe there is a north-south steam tunnel that goes back across to basically the Smithsonian Castle, running north-south. Vinyl, just turn on the stream on my new giant TV, a little disorienting. Yeah, guys, I would suggest watching the stream on as big a TV as you have. You guys get you ever watch our streams in the OmniMax format? Big IMAX, high definition. It's pretty surreal. Imagine being immersed in land. It's kind of like I don't know, must have been how like the, Lewis and Clark felt as they were going across the Great Plains, immersed in land. Get it? Where are we walking now, Robin? Well, we're walking by the National Archives, for one thing, which is right here. The National Archives, of course, is home to... Well, it was home to the Declaration of Independence until Nicolas Cage stole it. Also would have been home to a bunch of... Oh my God, what the hell is that? What is that creature? Did you guys see that? I didn't just imagine that, did I? What in the hell was that? Did you guys get a clearer glimpse of that than I did? What the hell was that? Wow. Okay. Mothman. That was... Wow. Okay. I gotta watch that back. It was a T-Rex. One of those swamp creatures. You guys did see that too, right? Like, that was like... Might have been T-Rex. Wow, okay, that was... I've never seen anything like that in the heart of DC. Chupacabra. Hey guys, let's figure out what the hell that was. Very, very, very odd. Anyway, see, I told you guys we sacrifice our safety sometimes. So I went back and saw nothing. Okay, I gotta go back and check that. That was like... That literally was like a coyote or something. That was a huge thing. If I didn't catch a glimpse of that on the stream, I'm gonna be pissed. There was a four-legged creature. It was a white cat, says Will. That was bigger than a cat. That was like a coyote or a fox or that was some very large creature running there by the National Archives, which, by the way, is right here. Anyway, if I didn't catch a glimpse of that, an actual brief bit of footage on that before it ducked into the bushes, I'm going to be pissed off. That was a little freaky. I've never seen anything like that in DC before. Anyway, I saw something, but just for a second, says Kim. We got to go like second by second back, screenshot by screenshot. Impeach Garland. Rioters walk, but pro-lifers receive SWAT teams at breakfast. Okay, guys. Well, we'll have to figure out what the hell that was. Boy, it was very unusual. Maybe a red fox. Could be. Could have been that. Oh no, we got more sex bots. What was I talking about? I have no idea. It scared the hell out of me. Now I've forgotten what we were talking about. It was a cougar. Might have been a cougar. Very well might have been a cougar. A lot of those in DC. Big cat. Might have been like a lion. You know, if I didn't catch a glimpse of it, I'm going to insist it was like a lion. Looked like a fox. Pretty shadowy as karma. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that probably would have been a fox. Probably was a fox. The statue of Wild Bill, who used to be a regular here in our streams. They built a statue of him here at the Navy Memorial for his illustrious service in the U.S. Navy. At least that's who I assume this is. Cougar coming out of a bar. Says, yeah, that could be coming cast. Perhaps a cougar that left the bar empty-handed. And, you know, that can be a scary scene. Gwen, hi Gwen. Summer. Cougar, those scare me. The bobcats, but cougars are stalkers. With the animal variety and the old lady type. Wow. There's water here at the Navy Memorial. That's fun. Smells like chlorinated water down here. They put chlorine in the fountains. Oh, we can't. I was going to take a little escalator ride, but we can't because there's a little thingy here. The metro's closed, but the escalators are running anyway. But notice they are not squeaking, which is, well, a little bit of squeaking, very faint squeaking. Escalators from hell. They're not. I think David Miller once pointed out that they should be calling them de-escalators, at least the downward ones. Only the upward ones are escalators. Cats are common night creatures. Love running around at night. That's true. That's why we covered that in our Africa stream. That if you're gonna want to go see the big cats in Africa, you usually got to go to a safari that either goes overnight or starts very, very, very early in the morning. An escalator can never break, it can only temporarily become stairs. Do you guys hear about the power outage at the University of Michigan in the student library? Dozens of students got trapped on the escalator for hours until they were able to get it running again. That's a Michigan joke. More of that coming as we get deeper into the college football season. Guys, we are, on my count, we are 7 likes away from 200. Are there any lurking likes out there? I mean, not to beg. I don't like grovel, but I will grovel if I have to. It's just, it makes me happy when people like me, and it makes me sad and like deeply dispirited and insecure when people don't like me. So, has anybody not dropped a like on the stream? I do appreciate that if anybody hasn't. Donna's Rothflameoing. Yeah, I do appreciate the likes on the stream. If anyone's not subscribed to our channel, I appreciate that too. As always, check our description for links to our Discord and our Duck Fund. We've got a whole soundtrack going on here. I hope we don't get copyrighted for that. That's always one of the irritating things that happens on these outdoor streams, is we'll stream for 3 hours of original content, and we'll walk by a restaurant that happens to have like 5 seconds of a song blaring in the background, and then whoever wrote that song, or the media company, will claim a copyright on our entire video. It's like, that's not your content, that's my content. Your song just happened to like pass by. It's really irritating to deal with that on YouTube. Anyway, Vicky, good morning, Vicky. Why they play music to nobody? I don't know, Will. There's nobody there. That's a good point. Seems like a violation of the noise ordinance. Don't go down the escalator. You might receive subpoenas the rest of your life, says I'm lurking. Interesting. Interesting, I'm lurking. Walter. Where are the deep underground tunnels? You need to find utility tunnels. Walter, we spent the first hour and a half of the stream tonight tracking those utility tunnels. Yeah, well, that was the whole point on a tight stream. And if you missed it, by the way, like, go back to the beginning of the stream. We did, like, we literally walked the course of the utility tunnels from the FBI headquarters all the way to where we think the source of the steam from last week came from, which was the central plant in southern DC. And then all the way back along other tunnels from that southern plant up to the White House, which it also feeds. I don't know what that proves. I guess if you want to do some kind of like in-person physical corruption that would require you to walk from the White House all the way to the FBI headquarters, you could, if you wanted to. I don't know. But mostly just a point of interest to communicate to people those tunnels exist. So we hope it was interesting. So yeah, guys, I think we are going to start to slowly wrap ourselves up tonight. It's important, you know, when it's late at night, to wrap yourself up. Go to the Go-Go Club. I really appreciate the conversation tonight, guys. I hope this was interesting. We're going to figure out new interesting stuff for the next few nights, so if you have ideas for us, let me know. Yeah, when we had like some kind of giant T-Rex lion hybrid beast that we encountered that scared the hell out of me tonight. Very scary. So a lot of interesting content tonight, guys. I hope it was interesting. Anyway, Vicky, I love your channel. What you do? Well, thanks, Vicky. Appreciate that. So, guys, I am going to wrap us up here because it's super late. I appreciate the conversation as always. I appreciate all the continued engagement with our channel, both here on our nightly conversation streams and also on our other platforms. You know, we've said numerous times how to find the Discord in the description and the Duck Fund in the description. And we've implored you all for, you know, likes and subscribes and all that stuff, so hopefully you've done that. Please thank our mods for all the work they put into supporting our stream. Thank you guys for all the time you put in here and, you know, make it worthwhile for me to come out every night. So I appreciate that. So if you want to continue the conversation, we'll be back out tomorrow night. In the meantime, the Discord is always popping and hopping. So, I don't know, guys. About all I got. Any last words? Right? Even land runs out of steam. Yeah, we probably walked, what? I don't know. 11 or 12 miles tonight? It's a lot. It's good for us. Oh, Jeanette's giving us last words. That's good. That's good. All right. Yes. Hang on to your Johnson. Good advice. Good for the heart's integrity. Okay, guys, thanks so much. For now, I'm gonna let this go. Like, subscribe, Discord, Duck Fund. Email is landspeculation@gmail.com. We'll be back out. Don't be strangers. Tell your friends. Spread the word, by the way. Like, tell other people we exist. That would be great. And all that. So, this is land. That ain't just speculation. And for now, I hope you guys all have a good night.